As an industry, we have to stop shooting at each other. We have a circular firing squad. If I talk about bourbon barrel wine or fruit-flavored wine or non-alcoholic wine or whatever, I can guarantee there are people in the wine industry who say, no, that's not wine. Wine should be this. No, we need to embrace every broad aspect of fermented grape juice, and we need to insert fermented grape juice into the broader lifespan.
Official media partner, the Italian Wine Podcast, is delighted to present a series of interviews and highlights from the 2024 Wine2wine Business Forum. Bringing together some of the most influential voices in the sector, we discuss the hottest topics facing the industry today. Don't forget to tune in every Thursday at 3 p.m. or visit ItalianWinePodcast.com for more information.
Where do we start? We have so much to cover. There's so much going on in the wine world right now. And first of all, we do have to address Come Over October. Now, first of all, how many of you have heard about dry January? Okay, I would say 40%.
Yeah, I think half.
I think more.
How many of you have heard about sober October? Maybe a bit less? Before coming to wine2wine. Okay, a lot less. Okay. So, of course, Gino is one of the partners of Come Over October. And I don't know if you've been following this. In August, Robert Joseph had this editorial. He runs an editorial. It's at Meininger's Wine Business, and it's called The Devil's Advocate. Right? So, and he had Sober October versus Come Over October. And then, of course, Gino, being one of the founding members, he did an op-ed. So, Robert, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've written?
So, I love the idea of speaking up for wine, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. However, I have some strong reservations about Come Over October. Very briefly, number one, it stemmed from Karen's absolute dislike of Dry January and Sober October because she actually penned a piece which was said, Why I Hate Dry January. So the first thing I'm going to say is, what is Dry January? It's a month where people don't want to drink. It started out for charity, by the way, it's for cancer charity, by a woman who was going to run a half marathon, and she needed to get fit, and she stopped drinking alcohol for the month. And I have sommelier friends, I've got lots of professional friends who don't drink alcohol during January. So I have very little patience with anyone in the industry saying, hey, you have to drink every day. If we talked about the betting industry, if we said, oh, I'm going to take a month off betting, how would you feel about the betting industry saying, no, you've got to bet every week? We don't. So that's number one. Secondly, there is the concept that wine is going to combat loneliness. This is implicit in some of the messaging. Actually, if you do look, there's been a lot of research into loneliness and alcohol. And to be fair, it is not conclusive. However, there is a lot of evidence that suggests that lonely people rely on alcohol as when they're by themselves. So having them over to your place and giving them something to drink is not necessarily the concept. Thirdly, I don't like the idea initially that it was October. Why not do this all year round? And lastly, why does it have to be just wine? I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But if we really care about loneliness, let's just get people to come over and have a convivial time. Because, ladies and gentlemen, here is the little secret. Wine is not the convivial drink. Tea is globally a far more convivial drink for more people in more countries. And by the way, beer is a pretty damn convivial drink. And last night I went out with two people in the room and we had some gin and tonics and vermouth, and they were pretty damn convivial. And for people who like it, weed is convivial. And for the people standing outside office blocks sharing a cigarette that they cannot smoke inside their building, those cigarettes are convivial. So let's look at this rationally. I love the idea of doing something for wine, but, we're coming back to this, I think it's trivial. I think we are whistling or playing the violin, fiddling, while Rome is burning. At the moment, the most recent statistics I have seen say that only 34% 34% of Americans of any legal drinking age ever drink wine. That 34% includes people who only drink once or twice a year. So we have to talk about the 66% of the American public who don't drink wine at all. And we also need to talk about the 37% of French consumers today who don't drink wine at all. We've got a huge problem, and I don't think Sober October is going to be the answer.
Okay. Gino, Mr. Gino Colangelo, would you have something to say?
Now I can be equally self-critical. Karen's video that she posted was tongue-in-cheek. You need a sense of humor
Well,
to
he's
understand
British.
that.
We may not have the same sense of humor.
We needed to make a stand. We felt we needed to make a stand for wine. We are wine professionals, wine communications professionals. It's okay to get together without a glass of wine, but the point of that campaign, of our campaign, is to get together. And there is a lot of isolation in the digital age. There's a lot of isolation coming out of COVID. There's a lot of acrimony in the US right now. I assume everybody here is aware we have an election tomorrow. And Come Over October absolutely struck a chord with Americans, from importers and distributors and retailers to consumers. Ultimately, consumers determine the success of the campaign. And people embraced it, and they embraced the message, which is wine does bring people together. I failed to see a lot of people drinking tea at dinner last night when I was out in Verona, and I failed to see much interest in beer. I see lists of hundreds of bottles of wine to pair with my meal, but there might be 3 beers on that menu. So I reject the idea that wine is not the communal beverage for 8,000 years that brings people together. And I think we all need to celebrate wine and actively promote it, not engage in semantics and sophistry.
October's passed now, right? We're officially in November. What are the plans for the campaign?
So we have a spring campaign that we will launch in the coming weeks. It will be something, to Robert's point, it's not good enough to promote just for 1 month. The next campaign will have legs, let's say, throughout the year, but we will focus the campaign in the spring. And then we expect Come Over October 2025 to be even bigger, much bigger than this year.
As you can see, they have 2 opposing views, if you will.
Opposing views on how we communicate,
Yeah.
but not opposing views in terms that we both celebrate wine, we both love wine, we're both in the business of wine.
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say that, but it's okay. That's okay. No mansplaining.
Elegantly put.
Yes, okay. But the great thing about wine2wine is that we have this community of sharing business ideas. And this is what we do, and I knew I could count on them. We met last night at a bar, at a restaurant, and we had this topic, what we can talk about. So there are many things that came to our minds: the historical shifts in consumption, the confronting the health narratives. Of course, we've touched a little bit about the health versus well-being, moderation in lifestyle trends, purpose of wine-related campaigns. There's just so much that we can broach, right? The convivial nature of wine, which Robert has addressed, and expanding inclusivity. And something that we did also touch, that maybe we can talk a little bit about, this historical shifts in consumption. There's no more denial, right? It's no longer a fad, because we have to think about whether it's a fad or a trend. It's definitely a trend. So seeing that we have very little time, given the steady decline in wine consumption, what strategies could the wine industry adopt, in your opinion, to regain appeal? I know you guys hate when I say this, among both younger and other demographics.
So, by the way, just as a quick statistic, wine consumption last year, wine sales in the US dropped by 8%. Spirits went down by 4%. And the trend away from wine has been going on since 1970. We have 50 years during which spirits and beer have been moving up, and wine has been moving down globally. Now, how do we fight that? We actually stop obsessing with wine. We stop thinking that it's all about wine and wine has an entitled place and all we need to do is just get more people drinking it and the people drinking it actually drinking more of it because it's a natural thing for them to do. It isn't. There was a moment once when we actually stopped on horseback. Until then, horses were what we had. And we'd had horses for 8,000 years and then we stopped. There is no reason why the US consumption shouldn't go down by 8 and another 8 and another 8. So what do we need to do, to your question? We need to look outside wine. We need to start inserting wine into a broader lifestyle in every sense, in media, in messaging, in conversation. So essentially, every time we talk about travel, every time we talk about food, every time we look about culture in all sorts of ways, we should be looking at ways to insert wine of every kind into that. And the second thing is, as an industry, we have to stop shooting at each other. We have a circular firing squad. If I talk about bourbon barrel wine or fruit-flavored wine or non-alcoholic wine or whatever, I can guarantee there are people in the wine industry who say, no, that's not wine. Wine should be this. No, we need to embrace every broad aspect of fermented grape juice, and we need to insert fermented grape juice into the broader lifespan because, as I said, we have 37% of French and 66% of Americans who never touch it. Those are the people we need to insert wine into because wine consumption, alcohol consumption per capita is going to go on going down, not because of WHO cancer warnings, but because of general well-being, wellness. How do I feel in the morning on a Wednesday morning after I've had a drink last night? That kind of mindfulness, which a lot of us think is a good idea, is going to grow.
I agree that wine needs to be inserted into more conversations. I think we all need to be more social with wine. Wine is a social beverage, and there's a lot of stories behind wine to tell. So be active on social media, but beyond your typical circles. Go to consumers, meet consumers where they are, to Robert's point, in whatever lifestyle position, wine with food, wine with travel. There are companies in the U.S. doing a really good job. Jackson Family, for example, is now sponsoring the NBA, so you could, have a glass of wine while you're watching a basketball game, which was typically a domain for beer, for example. But coming back to the social aspect, Stevie is probably the best example I know of somebody who has built audiences and engaged new people in the world of wine through social media. You can do that from your computer, from your vineyard. You can reach new consumers, you can tell stories, you can be personal with your messages, you can talk about that you love to ski, you love to race motorcycles, you make yourself available and human to those consumer audiences and be on social media. And conversely to that, be present in the market, at least for the US. It's just so critical to make human connections, as Karen mentioned in her video. AI has enormous capacity for learning and for quick access to information, but it also can further distance ourselves from each other. And the wine producers who are in the market, connecting to consumers, gathering data, saving emails, sending a follow-up, those are the ones who are going to be successful ultimately in the market. I would ask, how many people are collecting email addresses of everybody who visits your winery? And how many people are sending follow-ups with special releases or scores or interesting things that are happening at the vineyards, a concert, an art installation?
Well, you gave me an example last night. Can you share that?
Without naming the winery.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a client,
Big
an
client.
unnamed client. Let's not get specific.
Okay.
But I mean, it's substantial.
A substantial client who won a major award from a major publication. And their importer imported a lot of that wine and didn't sell right away. And I asked that producer if there was a shelf talker on the retail shelf promoting the Wine of the Year designation, if there was something on the bottle, if there was some promotion to the distribution, a sell sheet, something basic, right? No follow through. So following through in the most obvious, simple steps that to us communications people are second nature are not always so obvious to producers or to importers for that matter.
And just to pick up on that, I was talking about, because I produce wine in France, we were lucky enough to get a sticker, 92 points from the enthusiast. We got a listing from Costco, not because of the 92 points, but because of the sticker we put on the bottle saying 92 points. We then sold the wine in Costco because of the sticker, and they reordered it for that reason. And I'm going to say just quickly, picking up on what you were both saying, my New Year's resolution for 25, picking up what we're going to do, I'm looking at fashion shows. I'm looking at bookshop. I'm looking at art events or whatever. I'm looking at anywhere where there's a gathering of people who might be the right kind of people to buy my wine and saying, can I insert my wine into that event where people who don't read wine columns or wine magazines, don't even necessarily go into wine shops that often, are exposed to my wine on an occasion where they might be in the right mood to remember it. But I need to, pick up on Gino's point, I need to get their, whether it's their email, whether it's their Facebook or Instagram, I need to find a way to go on communicating with those people on the long term.
Okay, so last topic, that NOLO. What are we going to do with that? NOLO, no and low alcohol. Yes, no.
I'm making it, so that's my answer. Is it the answer? No, but it's one answer. We have to acknowledge that there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, do not want to drink wine today. It may be they don't want to drink wine at all, but the statistics in America show that the people who are drinking non-alcoholic beverages are the same people who drink alcoholic beverages, often on the same occasion. So I am trying to do it. We'll see whether it works. All I'm saying is, you guys in the industry, I don't mean in this room, don't shoot at me for doing it. Watch what I'm doing. If I and other people succeed, maybe follow it. The beer people are doing really well with it. They're doing it better than us, but they're doing up to 10% now of sales of some beers. Some beer companies are non-alcoholic. So if you ignore it, and in Italy you've got laws against making it, which is crazy, to me it is part of the fermented grape juice market.
Addressing beer, beer is much more conducive in the brewing process to making a no-alc. A wine no-alc actually requires a lot of intervention, a lot of energy, and a lot of even chemical intervention. So I'm not a huge fan, but I will say this. The biggest consumers of non-alcoholic wine are wine drinkers. So there is a place for it in the market. In our campaign for Come Over October, we acknowledge that some people don't want the alcohol, and then they should have a non-alcoholic wine or something equivalent. I think there's a place for it in the market. I don't think that ultimately it's the most natural or even healthy beverage because of the additives to it. So personally, I'm not a big fan. And I think there are some low alcohol wines that are low alcohol naturally and have always been low alcohol, like Chocolate in Spain, for example, or Moscato, and you could drink those wines all day long, but they're made as they were intended to be.
Just quickly, we can have a longer conversation about additives. There's no reason for any non-alcoholic or de-alkalized wine to be any less healthy than the equivalent wine. So that's a separate argument, but I think we're on the same page there.
Can we just quickly do the 3 steps?
Though we already did, but...
No, the recap of the 3 steps.
So
I'll
go first. I would say be social. That means social media, but it also means engaging consumers where they live. Be present in the market. There's no substitute for meeting your consumers and then following up with them with an email, or meeting them at your winery or meeting them at a wine dinner in New York. And 3, be creative. Be creative about yourselves, your own life. Everybody here has interesting lives that are doing interesting things, and be willing to share that and be creative in your communications.
I think you've actually covered most of the things I'd like to say, but I'm going to say just go back to it. Celebrate wine, but celebrate the enjoyment of life. All this stuff about risks and so on, everything we do has a risk. So anybody saying, oh, there's a risk of X of getting cancer if you drink wine, actually, there's a risk of driving from here to Rome. So if you're going to Rome to have fun, it's going to be part of your life. So number 1, to actually stop talking about that, but actually just focus on wine being one of the good things in life, and insert it into all of those other places where people are enjoying good things.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.